Good morning, everybody. Well, it was just snowing yesterday, so I guess it's kind of fitting that we're going to be reading a chapter called Christmas, hearing all about the Wilder family's Christmas time. So it's winter for them. It should be spring for us, but it feels like winter now that we had that snowy day. So let's start reading Christmas. What do you think they do for Christmas time? I am going to guess that Almanzo eats a lot of sweets at Christmas time because we know that's about the only thing he maybe likes more than horses. That's debatable. But I think he might like food more than horses and sweets more than horses. So I'm guessing that there is going to be a lot of good food and probably a lot of time with family. They love to spend time together, and that is definitely something that happens around Christmas time. Great time with family. Let's start reading our chapter Christmas. I'm going to have us follow along with the document camera. Okay. So for a long time, it seemed that Christmas would never come. Oh, do you guys relate with that feeling? Anytime something exciting is up ahead, like Christmas or the end of the school year, it feels like all those days just inch by. Now, on Christmas, Uncle Andrew and Aunt Delia, Uncle Wesley and Aunt Lindy, and all the cousins were coming to dinner. That'd be the best dinner of the whole year. Okay, of course, Almanzo's caring about his food. And a good boy might get something in his stocking. You guys ever have stockings that you hang up at Christmas time? Now, bad boys found nothing but switches in their stockings. Switches are like little twigs to give spankings on Christmas morning. Can you imagine? They'll get a switch instead of a gift in their stocking. Now, Almanzo tried to be good for so long that he could hardly stand the strain. But at last it was the day before Christmas, and Allison Royal and Eliza Jane were home again. The girls were cleaning the whole house, and Mother was baking. Royal helped Father with the threshing, but Almanzo had to help in the house. He remembered the switch, and he tried to be willing and cheerful. He had to scour the steel knives and forks and polish the silver. He had to wear an apron around his neck. He took the scouring brick and scraped a pile of red dust off of it, and then, with a wet cloth, he rubbed the dust up and down on the knives and forks. The kitchen was full of delicious smells. Newly baked bread was cooling. Frosted cakes and cookies and mince pies and pumpkin pies filled the pantry shelves. Cranberries bubbled on the stove. Mother was making dressing for the goose. That's going to be the main meal. Wow, this is more than the county fair, maybe. Outdoors, the sun was shining on the snow. The icicles twinkled all along the eaves. Far away, sleigh bells faintly jingled, and from the barns came the joyful thud, 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 thud of the flails. But when all the steel knives and forks were done, Almanzo soberly polished the silver. Then he had to run to the attic for sage. He had to run down cellar for apples and upstairs again for onions. He filled the wood box. He hurried in the cold to fetch water from the pump. He thought maybe he was through, then, anyway, for a minute. But nope, he had to polish the dining room side of the stove. Wow, it never ends. Do the parlor side yourself, Eliza Jane, Mother said. Almanzo might spill the blacking. Uh-oh. As we know, Almanzo already did spill the blacking. So Almanzo's insides quaked. Why are they quaking? He feels guilty. Maybe he thinks, does Mother know? He knew what would happen if Mother knew about that black splotch hidden on the parlor wall. He didn't want to get a switch in his Christmas stocking, but he would far rather find a switch there than have Father take him to the woodshed. For a spanking, probably. Now, that night, everyone was tired, and the house was so clean and neat that nobody dared touch anything. After supper, Mother put the stuffed fat goose and the little pig into the heater's oven to roast slowly all night. Father set the dampers and wound the clock. Almanzo and Royal hung clean socks on the back of a chair. Those are their stockings, just regular socks. And Alice and Eliza Jane hung stockings on the back of another chair. Then they all took candles and went to bed. Oh, do you think they'll be able to sleep? Do any of you have a hard time sleeping right before Christmas? It was still dark when Almanzo woke up. He felt excited, and then he remembered that this was Christmas morning. He jerked back the covers and jumped onto something alive that squirmed. It was Royal. Oh, he had forgotten that Royal was there, but he scrambled over him, yelling, "Christmas, Christmas, Merry Christmas!" just after stepping on his brother. He pulled his drap trousers over his nightshirt. Royal jumped out of bed and lighted the candle. Almanzo grabbed the candle and Royal shouted, "Hi, leave that be! Where's my pants?" But Almanzo was already running downstairs. Alice and Eliza Jane were flying from their room, but Almanzo beat them. He saw his hot sock hanging all lumpy. That's a good sign. What do you think that means? It's filled with things. He set down the candle and grabbed his sock, and the first thing he pulled out was a cap, a bootin' cap. Oh, just like the one that his cousin Frank had at church. Remember that? He was jealous of it. The plaid cloth was machine woven. So was the lining. Even the sewing was machine sewing, and the earmuffs were buttoned over the top. It is a store-bought cap, just like he wanted. Almanzo yelled. He had not even hoped for such a cap. He looked at it inside and out. He felt the cloth and the sleek lining. He put the cap on his head. It was a little large because he was growing, so he could wear it a long time. Oh, he's so happy. Eliza Jane and Alice were digging into their stockings and squealing, and Royal had a silk muffler. Ooh. Almanzo thrust his hand into his sock again and pulled out a nickel's worth of Whorehound candy. So Almanzo's got some candy, a store-bought cap, a nickel's worth of candy. That's what he was wanting. He wanted a nickel for his lemonade before, remember? And then Royal has a muffler for him to put his hands in. And it says he bit off the end of one stick. The outside melted like maple sugar, but the inside was hard and could be sucked for hours. That's a good thing for him because he likes to keep having it for as long as possible. Now, then he pulled out a new pair of mittens. Mother had knit the wrists and backs in a fancy stitch. He pulled out an orange, and that's pretty typical. I was checking on the muffler. I forgot. That is actually a scarf, a muffler. I was thinking of a muff. But he pulled out an orange, and he pulled out a little package of dried figs. Yum. And he thought that was all. He thought no boy ever had a better Christmas. Oh, he got a store-bought cap, some handmade mittens, candy, an orange, which was special, and some dried figs. But in the toe of the sock, there was still something more. It was small and thin and hard. Almanzo couldn't imagine what it was. He pulled it out, and it was a jackknife. It had 4 blades. This is like a pocket knife, where it's a little thing that you pull out the blades, and he would be able to make all sorts of stuff, and really that would come in handy for him. Almanzo yelled and yelled. He snapped all the blades open, sharp and shining, and he yelled, "Alice, look, 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 Royal, looky, looky, my jackknife, looky, my cap." Oh, he's so excited. Father's voice came out of the dark bedroom and said, "Look at the clock." They all looked at one another. Then Royal held up the candle, and they looked at the tall clock. Its hands pointed to 3:30. It's 3:30 in the morning. Even Eliza Jane did not know what to do. They had waked up father and mother an hour and a half before time to get up. They're not supposed to get up till 5, but they got up at 3:30. What time is it? Father asked. Or sorry, he's kind of checking with them. What time is it? He asked. Almanzo looked at Royal. Royal and Almanzo looked at Eliza Jane. Eliza Jane swallowed and opened her mouth, but Alice said, Merry Christmas, Father. Merry Christmas, Mother. It's 30 minutes to 4, Father. The clock said, tick, tock, tick, tock, tick. Then Father chuckled. I guess they're going to let him get up early. Royal opened the dampers of the heater, and Eliza Jane stirred up the kitchen fire and put the kettle on. The house was warm and cozy when Father and Mother got up, and they had a whole hour to spare. There was time to enjoy the presents. Sorry, I was checking on how long the chapter is for this one. It's kind of a longer one than usual. There we go. I got it. Now, Alice had a gold locket, and Eliza Jane had a pair of garnet earrings. Ooh, fancy. Mother had knitted new lace collars and black lace mitts for them both. Royal had the silk muffler and a fine leather wallet. But Almanzo thought he had the best presents of all. Oh, I bet everybody thought theirs were the best presents, because they suited each one of them. Then Mother began to hurry, and to hurry everyone else. There were the chores to do, the milk to skim, the new milk to strain and put away, breakfast to eat, vegetables to be peeled, and the whole house must be put in order and everybody dressed up before the company came. She is a busy woman. Even 3:30 in the morning on Christmas, she's thinking, we've got stuff to do. They have a lot of things to do before the company comes. Do any of you have that happen as well? The sun rushed up the sky. Mother was everywhere, talking all the time. Almanzo, wash your ears. Goodness mercy, Royal, don't stand around underfoot. Eliza Jane, remember you're paring those potatoes, not slicing them. And don't leave so many eyes. They can see to jump out of the pot. Do you remember eyes of the potato? The part that sticks out? They can't see with them, but that's a silly thing to say. Now, count the silver, Alice, and piece it out with the steel knives and forks. The best bleached tablecloths are on the bottom shelf. Mercy on us, look at that clock. Sleigh bells came jingling up the road, and Mother slammed the oven door and ran to change her apron and pin on her brooch. Alice ran downstairs, and Eliza Jane ran upstairs. Both of them told Almanzo to straighten his collar. Both of the girls. Now Father was calling Mother to fold his cravat. Then Uncle Wesley's sleigh stopped with a last clash of bells. Almanzo ran out, whooping, and Father and Mother came behind him, as calm as if they had never hurried in their lives. Frank and Fred and Abner and Mary tumbled out of the sleigh, all bundled up, and before Aunt Lindy had handed Mother the baby, Uncle Andrew's sleigh was coming. The yard was full of boys, and the house filled with hoop skirts. Oh, so many cousins. The uncles stamped snow off their boots and unwound their mufflers. Royal and Cousin James drove the sleighs into the buggy house. They unhitched the horses and put them in stalls and rubbed down their snowy legs. Almanzo was wearing his boot and cap and showed the cousins his jackknife. A boot and cap, remember, has that, the flops over the ears. And there's a little preview of what's to come as well. Now, Frank's cap was old now. He had a jackknife, but it had only 3 blades. Almanzo's feeling pretty proud of himself for a brand new cap and a jackknife with 4 blades. Then Almanzo showed his cousins Star and Bright and the little bobsled, and he let them scratch Lucy's fat white back with corn cobs. He said they could look at Starlight if they'd be quiet and not scare him. He likes to be in charge, don't you think, Almanzo does? The beautiful colt twitched his tail and came daintily stepping toward them. Then he tossed his head and shied away from Frank's hand, thrust through the bars. You leave him be, Almanzo said. I bet you don't dast go in there and get on his back, said Frank. I dast, but I've got better sense, Almanzo told him. I know better than to spoil that fine colt. What do you think dast means? Like dare. Like, I bet you don't dare to do that. Like it's too risky. How'd it spoil him? Frank said. Yeah, you're scared he'd hurt you. You're scared of that little bitty colt, he says. I am not scared, said Almanzo, but father won't let me. I guess I'd do it if I wanted to, if I was you. I guess your father wouldn't know, Frank said. Oh, he is a bad apple. Remember, one rotten apple ruins the whole bunch, and Frank is the kind of bad, rotten apple that's going to make other people make mistakes and disobey. Almanzo didn't answer, and Frank got up on the bars of the stall. You get down off there, Almanzo said, and he took hold of Frank's leg. Don't you scare that colt. I'll scare him if I want to, Frank said, kicking. Almanzo hung on, good for him. Starlight was running around and around the stall, and Almanzo wanted to yell for Royal, but he knew that would frighten Starlight even more. So he set his teeth and gave a mighty tug, and Frank came tumbling down. All the horses jumped, and Starlight reared and smashed against the manger. Poor Starlight. I'll lick you for that, Frank said, scrambling up. You guys remember what lick means? Like beat up, kind of. You just try and lick me, said Almanzo. Royal came hurrying from the south barn. He took Almanzo and Frank by the shoulders and marched them outdoors. Fred and Abner and John came silently after them, and Almanzo's knees wobbled. Now, Almanzo didn't really do anything wrong. He was being kind of harsh in his words to Fred, but he deserved it. But he was afraid that Royal would tell father about this. Let me catch you boys fooling around those colts again, Royal said, and I'll tell father and Uncle Wesley. You'll get the hides thrashed off you. There's Royal coming in on the boys. Almanzo pulling on Frank. And there's Starlight. Poor Starlight. So scared. Now, Royal shook Almanzo so hard that he couldn't tell how hard Royal was shaking Frank. Then he knocked their heads together. Almanzo saw stars. Let that teach you to fight on Christmas Day. For shame, Royal said. I only didn't want him to scare Starlight, Almanzo said. Shut up, said Royal. Don't be a tattletale. Now you behave yourselves or you'll wish you had. Go wash your hands. It's dinner time. You think that's right? To not be a tattletale? Yeah, Almanzo could say something about what was really going on, but he really shouldn't tattle on somebody else, no. He can figure it out. Now they all went into the kitchen and washed their hands. Mother and the aunts and the girl cousins were taking up the Christmas dinner. The dining table had been turned around and pulled out till it was almost as long as the dining room, and every inch of it was loaded with good things to eat. Almanzo bowed his head and shut his eyes tight while father said the blessing. It was a long blessing because this was Christmas Day. But at last, Almanzo could open his eyes. He sat and silently looked at that table. He looked at the crisp, crackling little pig lying on the blue platter with an apple in its mouth. He looked at the fat roast goose, the drumsticks sticking up, and the edges of dressing curling out. The sound of father's knife sharpening on the whetstone made him even hungrier. He looked at the big bowl of cranberry jelly and at the fluffy mountain of mashed potatoes with melting butter trickling down it. He looked at the heap of mashed turnips and the golden baked squash and the pale fried parsnips. He swallowed hard and tried not to look anymore. He couldn't help seeing the fried apples and onions and the candied carrots. He couldn't help gazing at the triangles of pie waiting by his plate, the spicy pumpkin pie, the melting cream pie, the rich dark mince oozing from between the mince pie's flaky crusts. He squeezed his hands together between his knees. Why do you think he's doing that? It's to stop him from being so anxious over it. He had to sit silent and wait, but he felt aching and hollow inside. So hungry. But grown-ups have to eat first, remember? All grown-ups at the head of the table must be served first. They were serving their plates and talking and heartlessly laughing. Heartlessly laughing. They're just laughing, but Almanzo thinks that it's cruel. Heartless means like it's cruel of them. The tender pork fell away in slices under Father's carving knife. The white breast of the goose went piece by piece from the bare breastbone. Spoons ate up the clear cranberry jelly and gouged deep into the mashed potatoes and ladled away the brown gravies. Almanzo had to wait till the very last. He was youngest of all, except Abner and the babies, and Abner was company. At last, Almanzo's plate was filled. The first taste made a pleasant feeling inside him, and it grew and grew while he ate and ate and ate. He ate till he could eat no more, and he felt very good inside. For a while, he slowly nibbled bits from his second piece of fruitcake. Then he put the fruity slice in his pocket and went out to play. Royal and James were choosing sides to play Snow Fort. Royal chose Frank, and James chose Almanzo. When everyone was chosen, they all went to work, rolling snowballs through the deep drifts by the barn. They rolled till the balls were almost as tall as Almanzo. Then they rolled them into a wall. They packed snow between them and made a good fort. Then each side made its own little snowballs. They breathed on the snow and squeezed it solid. They made dozens of hard snowballs. You guys like to make snowballs? I've never made a snow fort, but that sounds fun too. When they were ready for the fight, Royal threw a stick into the air and caught it when it came down. James took hold of the stick above Royal's hand, so it's like, whoo, somebody caught it. Do it again, covering up the stick like that. Then Royal took hold of it above James's hand, and so on to the end of the stick. Now James's hand was last, so James's side had the fort. Nice. How the snowballs flew! Almanzo ducked and dodged and yelled, and threw snowballs as fast as he could till they were all gone. Royal came charging over the wall with all the enemy after him, and Almanzo rose up and grabbed Frank. Headlong they went into the deep snow outside the wall, and they rolled over and over, hitting each other as fast or as hard as they could. Almanzo's face was covered with snow, and his mouth was full of it. But he hung on to Frank and kept hitting him. Frank got him down, but Almanzo squirmed out from under. Frank's head hit his nose, and it began to bleed. Oh my goodness. Almanzo didn't even care. He was on top of Frank, hitting him as hard as he could in the deep snow. He kept saying, holler enough, holler enough. That means, say enough. Why do you think he's doing that to Frank right now? He's still upset about Starlight, that's right. Frank grunted and squirmed. He rolled half over, and Almanzo got on top of him. He couldn't stay up and hit him, so he bore down with all his weight, and he pushed Frank's face deeper and deeper into the snow. And Frank gasped, "Enough!" meaning, I give up, I surrender. Almanzo got up on his knees, and he saw Mother in the doorway of the house. She called, "Boys, boys, stop playing now. It's time to come in and warm." They were warm. They were hot and panting. But Mother and the aunts thought the cousins must get warm before they rode home in this cold. They all went tramping in, covered with snow, and Mother held up her hands and exclaimed, "Mercy on us!" The grown-ups were in the parlor, but the boys had to stay in the dining room so they wouldn't melt on the parlor carpet. They couldn't sit down because the chairs were covered with blankets and lap robes, warming by the heater. But they ate apples and drank cider, standing around, and Almanzo and Abner went into the pantry and ate bits off the platters. Then uncles and aunts and the girl cousins put on their wraps, and they brought the sleeping babies from the bedroom, rolled up in shawls. The sleighs came jingling from the barn, and father and mother helped tuck in the blankets and lap robes over the hoop skirts. Everybody called, "Goodbye, goodbye." The music of the sleigh bells came back for a little while, then it was gone. Christmas was over. Okay, what do you guys think? There certainly was a lot of food, and interesting encounter between Almanzo and Frank. Now, we've seen a lot of negative things from Frank in the story so far. Do you guys remember some of them? He was kind of showing off to Almanzo early in the book with his cap. He also dared Almanzo to ask for some money and kind of made him feel bad that he didn't have lemonade. So he seems like he's just kind of rude to Almanzo and other people in general. He wants to show off to people, especially. So he also was really about to hurt Starlight, but Almanzo stopped him. Do you think that he went too far, though, Almanzo, with fighting with him in the snow? Maybe a little too far, yeah. But he was really trying to stand up for himself. So I think that he did have too big of a fight, but he did end up getting in trouble, and that's probably because, he was just standing up for what he thought was going to be the right thing to do for Starlight, like with pulling him down, even though Royal did get onto him. Okay, that is all for today's reading. You'll have a couple of questions to answer. Do you remember some of the gifts that Almanzo got? Okay, well, I will talk to you all later. That's going to be one of the questions. That's why I asked. I'll talk to you all later. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.